Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 3 series of professional StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Terran. We're in the top right-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces. We're looking inside of the main base of Hero, widely considered to be one of the very best Protoss players in the world. And down in the bottom left, playing with the blue SCVs, we're looking at Clem's main command center. Now, the Clem situation is getting out of hand. Clem has been, after many months of silence, been pretty vocal recently. Hello. What are we doing, little SCV? Clem, what are we doing? Wow, that is honestly quite sloppy. Anyways, he's been vocal over the last week or so about Protoss in particular. Clem's been saying that the Protoss players have it much easier in this matchup than the Terran players do, and because of it, he's been playing a ton of Protoss himself. Now, of course, in this particular game, he is going up against a Protoss player. This particular best of 3 is the upper finals of the Monday Night Weekly, so, well, as of me casting it, it was played last Monday. Either way, I want to have a look at a few series from this particular tournament, because we'll probably find out what Clem's master plan is now that Protoss is considered to be a little bit too good, at least according to him. So obviously what we've learned over the course of the last year or so is that Clem he's been playing a lot of Protoss against Terran too, right? So whenever he goes up against another Terran player, rather than focusing on Terran versus Terran, he has barely played that in all of 2025 so far. He even did this during the absolute biggest tournaments this year. He has been focusing on playing Protoss against Terran instead. And, well, in this particular tournament, it is no different. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. But we'll start off right here with this game on a ley lines. And everything is honestly looking very normal, albeit a very quick double gas opener here for Clem. It means that the command center gets delayed in favor of a faster factory. But of course, you can just go ahead and, well, add on a Cyclone, for example. That is pretty... Okay. Really? He made a reactor for a moment, canceled it, and then built up a starport. Honestly, quite a sloppy game so far from Clem. Clearly not 100% focused. A single SCV there on idle is honestly not that big of a deal. You lose a couple minerals in total. Obviously, by no means a real problem, but if you're gonna go for something like a Widowmine drop, or if you just want to play, I mean, literally any sort of timing attack, any delay that is caused by your own macro is going to hurt. Ultimately, right, what it comes down to, if you want to go for a timing attack-based opener, you need to hit as early as possible with whatever timing attack you want to go for. And obviously, if you end up delaying your own, well, pushes, it makes the entire game pretty difficult. Now, this has been a very quick sentry here from Hero, and that is one of the big complaints that Clem has recently brought up. Clem thinks that this is too powerful, and I am certainly in agreement. Basically, what Protoss can do is they can get a quick sentry out, they can recharge the sentry, and basically just get infinite amounts of energy to constantly do this hallucination Phoenix scouting. And it means that any sort of early game variety from Terran gets figured out. If you decide to deviate from the 100% normal early game as a Terran player, you're going to get scouted as long as the Protoss player has some sort of sentry out. As long as they're hallucination, you'd be crazy not to right now in the current meta. It's just so incredibly powerful. Now it looks like, all right, one of the adepts there must have gotten caught by the Widowmine. Third Next is already coming up for Hero. Technically a little bit greedy. If you want to be super safe here as the Protoss, you would go 2 base straight into Storm. And that seems to be the second part of balance that Clem is not enjoying too much. Nice retargeting right here by the Frenchman. That's the second part, because of the way that the High Templar can also get energy recharged, you get Storm ridiculously quickly. And Clem is basically saying that there's really no way to counter it if Protoss plays well. Now, what's really interesting about this, right? So, in my mind, Clem has never really been a balance whiner. So, there are some Protoss players out there, some Terran players, some Zergs out there that are a little bit... let's say whiny is probably the best. I'm not going to name any names, but there are some players out there that will be more than happy to give you their opinion on balance, and they're always talking about the game from their own perspective only, and it's usually quite clear that they're not really considering you know, the bigger picture. But Clem, in my mind, not really somebody that does it all too much. And I remember very vividly, like a year, maybe a year and a half or so ago, Clem made a tweet saying, yo, Ghosts are too powerful and Protoss needs help against Terran. Because if the game keeps going like this, it's no good. Like, that was the first time I have ever heard. At the time, he was the world champion of StarCraft 2. Right now, of course, that's Cyril. But at the time, I mean, he's playing mech. He's playing mech right now against Protoss. Huh. At the time, he was the world champion of StarCraft 2, and he was advocating for a Terran nerf. So Clem was trying to reduce the strength of Terran, and I guess in his mind, we have made a little bit of an overcorrection. Now, this is wild. We never really see mech against Protoss, so I guess this is Clem very much so experimenting. Rather than going into Stimpack or really any sort of like ground-based timing, apparently we are going straight into Terran mech, and this will be something that's normally going to be a surprise for Protoss. But of course, the hallucination, well, it's already showed exactly what's going on for Hero, so he knows what he's playing against at this point in time. Nice little bit of micro. Clem trying to settle on a pylon kill here, but I mean, he delayed the Nexus for a bit, but that was honestly quite expensive. Could have certainly tried at the very least to evacuate some of the units out of there, but I guess with Blink it's going to be difficult to get both the medevacs as well as the units home. So he decided to just escape with the medevac and sacrifice the Marines, because we aren't going for Stimpack anyways. We're going into now an armory and, well, also the Cyclone upgrade. So we'll probably see a very battle mech heavy approach right here from Clem. In the meantime, notice how Hero is not really pushing particularly aggressively. Normally, Hero is one of the most aggressive Protoss players in the entire game, but he is just scouting, he is just chilling. That's one of the difficult parts about playing against mech. It's difficult to really push in and get real damage done, but he also knows that mech is going to be quite passive, so he should be fine just sitting back here, macroing up on his own side of the map. Now, what do you go for here? As a Protoss player, you have a couple different options against mech. First off, you can go Immortals. Secondly, you could go into Skytos. Third, you can just try to flood the map with mass amounts of Zealots and Stalkers. There's a lot of build order variety, and honestly, that's one of the things you can do against Bio-Terran as well. But the timing attacks are going to be a little bit different now, right? So I'm assuming, as we do have the Banshees swooping in, a little bit of damage done, but not a ton. Nice control right here by Hero. I'm assuming we'll go for like a maxed out army. Or should I say maxed out? Okay, no, sorry. Yeah, okay, it's gonna be Blue Flame upgrade right now for Clem. And he is indeed adding on more and more Cyclones. So we only have 3 siege tanks. Armor upgrades? No, not the case. He's actually going for the attacking upgrade here for the mechanical units. Now it's time, though, for Hero to try and see if he can potentially get some real damage done. So he doesn't have Storm. He also doesn't even have Charge yet. Instead, I mean, he's moving out, but I don't even think it's a real push. He's going into a fleet beacon right now. He's getting the +1 arrow weapons. Additional Stargates are added into the mix. This is not a real move out. Maybe he's trying to see if he can potentially catch the Terran army, as it is in the middle of the map. Alright, now Clem is gonna go for an attack here. He will test the waters to see if it's possible to get some real damage done now. Hero has cut so many corners. No Storm? Oh, he is gonna get us around over here, though. But no Storm and no real powerful units? Not even a lot of robo play at all. Man, Clem just seems insanely frustrated with the way that he's maneuvering around the map. Almost like YOLOing in troops because it feels helpless, I guess, in his mind. Yeah, I mean, he's charging after this, and despite the fact that Hero didn't really see this coming until it was already pretty close to the 12 o'clock base, he is still able to clean this up whilst even teching up, right? So he's got that +1 air weapons finishing. He's got the fleet beacon, the triple Stargate. None of those things have really added anything here to the strength of the Protoss just yet. And it looks to me like with some of those reinforcing units arriving here for Protoss, that Clem is getting overwhelmed. Momentum is a big thing with, well, Battle Mech in particular. And momentum is certainly in favor right now of the Protoss player. Carrier production, by the way, has started up. Not a whole lot of anti-air available, I guess. I mean, the Cyclones are going to be here, and we have some Viking production too. So the scan in the main base did reveal exactly what's going on. And maybe I'm looking into this a little bit too much, but the way that Clem is microing in this game and the way that he's like choosing his strategies, it just seems frustrated. He just seems to be a little bit tilted about the way that everything is going right now. Yeah. Okay, well, the Skytools fleet is well underway. Carriers are going to hit very hard, especially with the +2 upgrade. That one's coming right now. +2 air weapons is usually the big power spike, at least against Zerg. Every single one of those carriers just benefits so much from that. But Hero is gonna arrive at that death ball. There's not a whole lot here that Terran can do about it. Look, Clem not making the planetary. This has to be a mistake. Oh, he doesn't even have a... Oh, he doesn't have a engineering bay. You can't make a planetary fortress without an engineering bay. He will go into a second armory for now, so double upgrades can continue. And of course, Clem is going to be able to get to a maxed out state here. Observers are seeing everything. Vision all over the map. The Viking numbers are currently up to 8, but there's already 6 carriers. A little bit of a blue flame Hellion drop, unloaded too early. And that means that the probes are going to get roasted. Nexus over here, though, is certainly going to get destroyed. Not a whole lot that Clem... Or, sorry, that Hero can do about it. But now the rest of the Skytools fleet arrives. He does have the Templar Archives done at this point, but it's not going to have Storm yet. This Protoss army will get a big power spike still in about a minute or so, at least assuming Hero starts it up. For now, though, the man is smelling blood in the water. This Protoss army is looking pretty dang magnificent. One of the carriers, though, gets targeted down. Second carrier also gets fired down. Stalkers, though, are joining in the fray, and it looks to me like all of the Cyclones are disappearing. Hellions are nowhere to be seen anymore either. A couple of Hellbats are morphing in, but this Protoss army is just too powerful. Storm or not, Clem needs to leave. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Tokamak. It looks to me like Hero wants to lean into Clem's frustration a little bit. Clem playing a mighty sloppy game number 1. Very uncharacteristic. He's decided to go for a double proxy gate. Now, lucky here for Clem, he is SCV scouting. Probe scouting, by the way, is another thing that Clem highlighted specifically. That Protoss players have gotten so comfortable that we rarely even see probe scouts anymore. Oh, no. Well, this is absolutely terrible for Clem. Clem is going for an engineering bay block. Does he at least see the probe? He doesn't see the probe. It now means that Clem is trying to prevent the base from coming up, but obviously what he's playing against is, well, not quite an all-in, but certainly some dedicated pressure. Cybercore is added on into the mix here as well, and as long as he doesn't see this... Well, this proxy, it's going to be a problem. I mean, the barracks is really in the right direction, though, so that's going to make life a little bit better. Winner of this series, by the way, will go on to the grand finals of the Monday Night Weekly. It is a tournament for a few $100s, and as the engineering bay does get cancelled now, eventually Clem can start up a base of his own. Is he going to find out about those gateways? Because he does have a rally point. Oh, okay, he sees a Zealot at least. That is something. The Zealots are going to be followed up, though, by Stalkers, I would imagine. Cybercore finishing up. There we go. Double chrono. It's nice here for Clem that he caught this relatively early. He already made a bunker as well. He did go for a quick factory, so no command center for him. And despite the engineering bay block, I think he can still navigate this into a pretty nice spot. It'll be difficult, but this is the type of thing that Clem is very good at. Secondary engineering bay block right now as well, which I do quite like. Stalkers are just going to bypass the bunker, though. And is there enough here for the Terran player to really push this all away? SCVs are pulled away from the mineral line to, well, mitigate at least some of the damage. Stalker just microed here to hit that main unit of the Terran. Widowmine, though, will make it difficult to pass into the main moving forward. Obviously, Adepts don't really care. Yeah. It's a lot of lost mining time, right? And now the Adepts decide to swoop by this location. They don't care with their shades about the Widow Mine in particular. Clem knows that there is a Widow Mine out there. Or sorry, Hero knows that there is a Widow Mine out there somewhere. Nice targeting. And ultimately, the control here from Clem has been pretty stellar. Obviously, the problem, though, is all of the lost mining time, right? If we look at the income advantage here, there is no expansion yet for the Terran. Protoss has already expanded. And despite the losses, this is not an easy game right here for Terran. Still, though, ball is now in the court of Clem. Clem gets to decide the pacing of the game. A little bit of sloppy control right there from Hero. Probably could have saved that extra Adept. And the big problem here, of course, as well for Hero, right, is that it's likely that he's going to lose these gateways if he stops producing. So even though he does have an expansion, sure, he really can't just add an additional 400 minerals into the losses. 400 minerals in a whole lot of time. It'll be difficult to achieve that job. Well, we did see the Adepts get recalled, so at the very least, the Hellions will be denied for now. Probe transfer is happening. Engineering Bay, by the way, was finished all the way through. Probably should not have finished that all the way through. Probably should have finished that about 99%. Would have been a little bit better. Either way, Command Center is now coming up here for Clem. It's just about to be done. And Clem once more playing Terran Mech. We're playing Mech 2 games in a row against one of the world's best Protoss players. And keep in mind, in that previous game, Hero didn't even really have the scariest weapons yet. Like, the real scary units that he can produce would be, for example, Archon Zealot Storm, right? Like, that is the type of stuff that absolutely destroys Terran Mech. Hero didn't even bother with that. He just destroyed it with his, well, regular army while transitioning into Skytoss. By the way, in the meantime, Hero is not enjoying the current stage of the game too much. He doesn't want to give up without a fight, at least, when it comes to those gateways that he's proxied. So we're going into a Dark Shrine. Extra gateways are now coming up as well, though, at home, which makes a lot of sense. How much detection will there be, right? I mean, no engineering bay, no Raven, not even a starport. It is something that is worth taking into consideration here as Clem, right? Like, you need to make sure that you have some form of detection still. Obviously, you can't just save up energy in the orbital command, but I guess he has an engineering bay over here. It'd be really funny if this is the one that he uses to make missile turrets with. He should probably make a missile turret, honestly, before this engineering bay goes down. Hero's thinking the same thing. He's like, wait a second. Before I reveal the big surprise, they're being warped in right now. I should probably make sure that my opponent can't make any sort of missile turret right now. Keep in mind that in the previous game, the engineering bay was extremely late. Clem did not add that one on until much later. We have a new engineering bay, though, happening over here in the back. Alright. Well, not all heroes wear capes. But what about this guy? Is he gonna be able... close your eyes, Terran players. Even though I think this is quite a good game for Clem, it is still painful. He had 2 scans saved up. And you know what? That was a very... You can open your eyes again. That was a very easy cleanup. Oh, careful now. There we go. Does he have another scan? Engineering bay is coming up. Ooh, nice little bit of body blocking. Such a bully with them. Steps right outside of the range of the scan. Moves back in. Right now, though, the missile turret is done. And yeah, even though Jimmy is not going to live to tell the tale. That was 4 Dark Templar for a whole lot of nothing. Well, the scans, I guess. The scans are to be taken into consideration, because every scan could have been a mule. But still, Clem is going to have a large army, and I would really like to see a Raven. Is that what we're going to do? I think we are going for a Raven. Well, well, well. Yeah. I don't want to say I told you so, because I understand this situation is very odd. But I do feel just a little hint of smugness coming up right now. I've been saying for years we should see more Ravens. Anyways. They are, of course, very powerful spellcasters, but then also detectors, and that's the real thing. I've been mostly talking about Ravens in the late game of Terran versus Zerg, but yeah, I don't think they're that easy to pull off. Bunch of different reasons as to why. We're not gonna get into that right now, because this is TVP, not TVZ. Okay. This army, though, from Clem has very real potential. Now we're going for a push, and charge isn't even done yet. No storm, no shenanigans along those lines whatsoever. And now suddenly, the Terran mech army is looking pretty scary. Yeah. Okay. Terran mech is extremely uncommon against Protoss, but it might be the way forward if guys like Clem truly believe that you cannot face off against the Protoss, or, Protoss player playing Bio anymore. Here we go. The boys get pulled. The Zealots will charge in, but there's Hellbats, of course, and they have blue flames, so those workers are gonna go down in the blink of a Stalker. Yeah, and just not enough damage here. Not enough damage here on Hero's end of the game. And I believe that means that Clem is going to be able to obtain the win here playing Terran mech. Auto turret gets dropped out as well. I mean, I guess the Raven could get targeted, at which point Dark Templar can be warped in again. But yeah, Hero is trying to. It's not going to happen though. This is way too much damage. And now, yep, momentum is in favor of the Terran. Now it's important to note that the Monday Night Weekly is a double elimination tournament. So the winner of this particular series moves on to the grand finals. The loser of this particular series will move on to the lower bracket finals, which is a best of one, in which the winner of that particular match is moving on to the grand finals as well. Now, I believe in the lower bracket finals, we will see Bjorn. So I believe Bjorn is waiting in the lower bracket to face the loser of this upper bracket finals. Does that make any sense? I feel like double elimination formats are really good, like as far as a tournament goes. But I feel like as a viewer, as a commentator, they are a little bit strange to... Anyways, it basically means that the players have two lives going into the tournament. So getting eliminated once in a series does not mean that you are immediately out of the event. So there's a lower bracket as well for all of the players that have lost the series thus far in the tournament. They will play best of ones, and you basically have a chance to climb all the way back from the lower bracket, still to the grand finals, and you still have a chance to eventually win the entire event. And you know what? I like the simplicity of single elimination. So just straight up brackets where everybody faces against one another, and the winner moves on. The loser gets eliminated, but I don't really mind having a bit of variety, right? Because we have so many tournaments in StarCraft 2. The weird thing, though, that happens when you have a double elimination bracket is that usually the winner of the upper bracket finals, so the winner of this one, they will have gotten to the grand finals without losing their, like, first life. So they haven't lost the series yet. And it's quite custom, I guess. It's quite the norm to give the winner from the upper bracket finals a advantage going into the grand finals. So either like a 1-0 score lead, or you, for example, have the players play a best of 5, and then if the upper bracket final guy win, you go into, well, you win the tournament, but if the lower bracket finals guy wins, you get a best of 3 on the back. I mean, it gets messy. It just gets messy. So I like the simplicity of single elimination, but there is something to be said for double elimination. Good old Banshees here coming up. Cloaking Field also researching. Is Clem gonna go into mech again? I mean, he's already up to 3 gas geysers. I would not be surprised whatsoever, because he's getting more gas income than he really needs. Nice lock-on right over here, though, with those cyclones. Banshee wants to stay at home for a little bit longer. Mostly just here to bait the Stalkers. He's like, hit me, haha! Meet my friend, the Siege Tank. One of the Stalkers does go down. Command Center, though. Coming up right here for Clem. And he will be using those Banshees now that the first one is repaired back up to full to go across the map and do a little bit of harassment. But what about this? Just good old 4-gate. 4-gate Blink Stalker. Now this is a build that is technically solved. At the very least, Terran players like Clem are extremely good against this build order. But we have seen a little bit of frustration on Clem's end of the games. We have seen him just be a little bit tilted across the board. What if we just bring the good old 4-gate back? Not a bad idea at all. And so far, I mean, this Protoss player is getting a good bit of value. This may actually force Clem into playing Bio. Even if he wanted to originally go for Terran Mech, I wonder if he can make that transition from here. Usually, your next step here as a Terran player is to go into Stimpec and all the rest of it. Again, an aggressive blink forward. He wants to pick up the weakened units, but the Prism has already taken a bunch of damage. For now, though, Hero is really just fishing to deal as much damage as he can, and actually the Prism, somehow, some way, was still within a range, I guess, of the units inside of the bunker. This is the StarCraft 2 equivalent of the sledgehammer, right? Everybody has a plan, every Terran has a build order, until the 4-gate Blink Stalkers hit them in the face. We are going mech, by the way. Even on the back of all of this. Okay. Yeah, there are these, like, big skill check strategies in SC2. 4-gate Blink Stalker, I mean, this is... If your build is good, it can counter this, right? But if your build sucks, if you've gotten too creative... If you're trying to, I don't know, cut too many corners, you will just straight up lose to a build order like this. But it looks like Clem actually managed to hold on. He did lose all of his harassment tools, so that kind of sucks. 3 siege tanks down the drain as well, especially with Bio, is a big problem. But we're not playing Bio. As a matter of fact, we're once more going into the good old bugged Cyclone. Maybe at this point it's cannon. Who's to say? Factory in the back of the natural expansion too. The barracks just used here to make as many add-ons as possible. We once more though have a War Prism moving around the site. And Hero, not really opting for Storm. Have we seen Storm yet at all in this series? We haven't. One of the big pressure points right now, one of the big painful spots for Terran players, all over the internet. I just got done visiting the StarCraft 2 subreddit, the Battle.net forums, the Team Liquid threads. The big sore spot right now for Terran players across the board is Storm. And Hero's like, yo, I don't even need that stuff. I mean, I will get it eventually, but I'm not in a rush. Don't rush me, man. I'll get there eventually if I need to. But he's got a good number of units, though. And the third base will be acquired right now by Clem. Zealot Warp in, a very large one in the back. It looks like we're going to send Zealots into the main base and then a big, big Protoss army straight over at the main force here at the third. Well, let's see. We bypassed the missile turret in the corner. I'm assuming we'll go for a big warp-in the main base too. I believe that is indeed the plan. And this is one of the downsides, of course, of Battle Mech. You just don't have as many units. Like in absolute numbers, you have a ton of Marines and Marauders at this stage in the game. It's a derpy fight because a lot of units are body blocking one another. There was a split off right there from Clem to try and get those units into the main base and clean up the Zealot run-by. Even though the execution of the fight at the front was not quite as perfect. In the meantime, there is a 4th base, by the way, on the back it is as well. Hero just demolished Clem. Now that means that Hero moves on to the grand finals of the Monday Night Weekly. Next up, we have the lower bracket finals, which is a best-of-1 match, where indeed in the bottom left-hand corner, we have none other than Björn. And right now in the top left, the loser of the previous series, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. Clem decides to switch to Protoss. Okay. I think, across the board, Terran Mech is not the way to go. You can tell here. Turncoat. Really, Björn? You just pulled that word out of nowhere. Back Terran. Traitor. Heretic. I love the way the Koreans speak English. It's very nice. It's very fun. The thing is, Your TVT too good? Ah, okay, that's what we're gonna give him a little compliment. Me soon change Protoss, haha, we PvP, beat you, soon, wait. Alright. Well, Bjorn can't be too surprised to see that Clem is playing Protoss here against his Terran. That's something that has happened many times before. What Bjorn is referencing here is another tournament that happened, I think, end of last week, where it was Clem going up against MaxPax in the grand finals, and Clem decided to play Protoss versus Protoss in the finals instead of playing Terran. And I think just across the board, we can see the frustration. Clem is just trying his best to figure out a way to play Terran against Protoss. Storm's too good, scouting is too good, bio play is just not really a viable choice, at least according to what he is saying. Obviously, you always have to take the words of a pro gamer with a grain of salt, but he decided to try Terran Mech, and Terran Mech just got utterly destroyed by really quite a basic early game there from Hero in that previous series. Hero just going for the most conventional approach ever, not really leaning on any of the quote-unquote overpowered tools so much, right? He didn't even go Storm a single time, and Terran Mech just got massacred by it. Very cool to see, Clem mixing in a bit of Protoss here against Terran, but if he is also gonna start playing PvP rather than TVP, I think at that point, we run into some problems. We'll talk about it a little bit more in just a moment, before I yap onwards about unrelated stuff for a little bit longer in this particular game. We've got ourselves a Twilight Council coming up for Clem. No surprise there. He's a big fan of playing Blink. Hellion moves forward. It's going to be annoying. Bjorn is going to be forced to delay this command center for a little while. It's being quite adventurous, building that thing on the low ground. Nice little bit of micro here, though, coming out of both players, honestly. Another Adept will show up. Will the Hellion over here die? Yep. But so will the Adept. And I guess that is a sacrifice that Bjorn will be willing to make. Not a terrible trade-out, but obviously the big advantage there is that the Nexus, or, well, command center right over here on the low ground, the Terran Nexus gets delayed for a little bit. Counter-attack right now with the Hellion, and then also that Reaper, but I mean, there should be plenty of units available here. Blink coming up here for Clem. I wonder if Bjorn is also going to be playing a little bit of Terran Mech. Oh, really? Okay. Well, he wanted to go Hyperflight Rotors, canceled the upgrade, and decided to go for the Cloaking upgrade instead. Got a little excited there. No, it is going to be bio here from Bjorn. So his follow-up will be an infantry-based army rather than a factory-based army. This is, of course, the gold standard. Mech being the odd one out, and a strategy that we rarely see, at least against Protoss players. For reasons that Hero was so nice of us. Well, he was so nice for us to show. Robo facility on the back of this. Can't believe Bjorn just pulled out the word turncoat, by the way. That is... I think he probably put the Korean word into Google Translate, and that's the one that popped out. Turncoat is... it feels old school to me. In English, you would probably sooner call him a traitor. It's a perfectly viable word, though. Maybe we should bring the word turncoat back. It is a good one. Heretic. Turncoat? In fact, it was I who was turncoated. No. No, that Illidan quote doesn't really work with turncoat rather than betrayed. Anyways, Engineering Bay coming up right now. Stimpec indeed. First time we're seeing it. Bunch of Stalkers in the main base just to be a little bit of a nuisance. And Clem's Stalker micro is phenomenal, right? That's what we've been seeing. We saw some decent micro, as we do have some harassment as well on the other side of the map. We saw some decent micro from Hero in the previous game. Honestly, I have been more impressed by Clem's micro with Protoss than I have been by the micro of many Protoss players out there across the board. Sometimes we see, like, look at this. Like, he didn't lose anything, right? He kept all of the Stalkers alive in this party. 8 SCVs have gone down. That's pretty nuts. Like, it's obviously not easy to pull that sort of thing off, as he is now going into the stuff that he hates so much. I love the silent balance whining. So the reason, by the way, Clem spoke up about this sort of thing is because somebody asked him. I think Pig asked it. And he highlighted it in a video. It's not like Clem made like a public statement about, hey, Protoss is overpowered. No, he was like, you know, somebody asked him and he decided to answer the question. Fair enough. But I like the silent balance whining. When the players are like, you know what? Screw this matchup. I will just show you why the race is overpowered. I guess actions speak louder than words. Nice little bit of defense here as well by Clem, though. This Terran army is going to be scary. Stimpack is done. Combat shields and +1 are gonna come on the back of it. It's a little bit delayed. It's all a little bit disjointed. As long as the Prism is alive, it should be a pretty easy... Yeah. He decides to sacrifice the Stalkers. As long as the Prism is alive, it should still be quite defendable. Clem, pretending like he's gonna go for a move out with it, decides to recall it instead. But you know what? He's bought time for Storm. And Storm right now is done. So this is a very conservative way to start off as a Protoss player. And in a way, it kind of feels like the Storm upgrade. At least that seems to be what Clem is implying. Once you get the Storm, that's when you can breathe. That's when you can breathe easy as a Protoss player, because that's when everything starts hitting, well, perfectly at the right time. So let's see, how much damage can we do with this army? Feedbacking Medivacs is another big thing, by the way. He doesn't know what's inside of the Prism at this point in time, but of course, Bjorn can guess. There we go. He has already pre-split a lot, though. A bunch of units are showing up in very unconnected portions of the army, and that was by no means the best fight that Clem could have taken. Full preparation right there from Bjorn, although he did not quite expect the additional Storm to come out of the Templar. Nice splitty right there by the Protoss. Arkle now shows up as well, obviously incredibly strong. Nice micro as well against the Widowmine, mitigating all the damage. And Clem is now suddenly on the hunt. Even though the fight started off, yeah, relatively messy for him, he's still finding himself in a good enough spot to continue to push. In the meantime, Nexus in the top right. I genuinely think Clem might actually be like top 2 best PvT players in the world right now. Maybe even number 1. I know that's a crazy statement, but recently, the times I've seen him play Protoss, he just seems more confident than he is playing Terran. Clem may very well be the new, like, best Protoss versus Terran player out there. Maybe just the best versus Terran player in the world. Look at this. GG. And that means that we've got ourselves a rematch for the grand finals of the weekly. Spawning right here in the top left-hand corner with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than Hero. Down in the bottom right with the blue SCVs, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. He had a moment to play a little bit of Protoss. And honestly, he made Bjorn look like a bit of a fool, which is ironic because Bjorn, well, he's a previous world champion of StarCraft 2. He is considered to be one of the most in-shape Terrans in the world right now, and Clem just dismantled him with ease. So we've got a little bit of backstory now, right? Going into this finals. In the previous series, Clem seemed very frustrated. He decided to play Terran Mech against Hero a bunch of times. Hero initially was like, oh, sorry, what do I do against this? And then at some point he figured it out and made, well, Mech look like a pretty terrible choice. And then, of course, we saw Clem proceed to play Terran, well, against the Terran, that is, as a Protoss player himself. Pylon is going to be map number 1. Hero probably watched that previous game too. By the way, casters, this is a best of 5, a reset best of 3. Yeah, thank you very much. TKL from the past. So, the reason... Okay, what TKL is trying to say here... I tried mentioning that earlier, but again, because Hero is coming from the upper bracket finals and Clem is coming from the lower bracket finals, it means that Clem has used up his first life in the tournament. Hero has not. Meaning that if Hero wins this best of 5, he wins the tournament. If Clem wins this best of 5, they play one additional best of 3 to decide the winner of the entire event. Factory on the back of this right now for Clem. Reactor as well. I think we just play Bio. I really don't believe, as cool as mech is and as nice as it is to play, especially against Zerg, I really don't think you should be playing Terran mech against, well, at least not Protoss players of this caliber, right? And that's always that's the finicky part whenever we discuss balance, right? What Clem is experiencing in the game, and the reason why he is salty, is very different from like 99.99999% of the player base. Like, the game is perfectly fine for pretty much everybody out there. Basically, what Clem is arguing is that battery overcharge, or the energy overcharge rather, is a little bit too strong. The ability on the Nexus. That's what he's saying. Now, that's also the stark contrast, especially if you check out any of the community forums out there, the Battle.net forums, whatever. People will complain about the game being unplayable, but they're complaining about the game being unplayable in, for example, Diamond League, right? And that's the big difference. Clem would be able to cruise through Diamond League quite literally with his eyes closed. Like, he would be able to beat any Diamond League player with ease with one hand. His frustration is a very specific one. Now, we do have some nice micro here coming out of Hero. Command center on a low ground. I mean, it's critical for Clem not to get it delayed. SCVs are already pooled. He needs the CC. Yeah, okay, he does finish it, but he needs it not just for the command center itself and the, well, orbital command and all the rest of it, but also just for straight up supply. Hero's doing a really good job, though, microing these stalkers. Ay, ay, ay. He is gonna lose some of them. Mass repair here, but look at the amount of mining time lost here as well on the Terran's economy. In the meantime, Hero is cruising. Hero is sitting at 35 workers. He's gonna recall right now as well, just to rub some additional salt in the wound. Stalker goes home, 3 HP. Great timing right there by Hero. Income-wise, that's of course the big graph. We're once more going Terran mech. I can't believe this. Clem is just doing the same thing again. He just refuses to play Terran Bio. I guess in his mind, though, like we just saw in the previous game against Björn, we now know, okay, this is why we don't. This is why you don't play Bio anymore against Terran, or against Protoss, rather. As a Terran player, it just gets too messy. Yeah, Cyclones it is. Okay. Now, just because Clem believes that playing mech against Protoss may be the way to go, does not mean that suddenly Bio is no longer playable on the ladder. And I feel like that's always one of the big disconnects. Like, the balance at the absolute highest level, when the top 10 players are facing off against each other, is very different than the balance for everybody else out there. Clem would probably be insanely excited if, like, energy overcharge gets, like, a 10% nerf. He's like, oh my god, this is the best day of my life. Whereas, like, 99.9% of the players, aka me and probably you, we wouldn't even notice. Like, we would literally not be able to tell the difference. That's the level we're talking about, you know? It's these extremely small changes that would make all the difference for this level of StarCraft. But either way, Hero is gonna blink into the main base and start being aggressive once again. Oh my god, getting this tech lab is big. Say goodbye to your Macfield accelerator. Blinks away. He does lose a couple stalkers there, though, for that particular engagement, so maybe not a terrible idea. Maybe not a terrible outcome. Clem is gonna be able to start it up once more. He'll research that ability. He can't really move out very well with these Cyclones until the upgrade is done. I mean, he can kind of move a little bit, but it's very committed. Stalkers are just going to tear him apart. In the meantime, the third Nexus is finished up here for Hero. Okay. Yeah. So the Cyclones will be able to eventually push this back. Immortal is joining in the fray, though, and they're very, very tanky. They also deal a lot of damage. He's targeting the individual Cyclones down. Still no mech field accelerator, right? It just makes this fight much more manageable for Hero. Cyclones over here. Blink. I think he can blink on them. He decides to back up. He thought it was bait. It wasn't actually bait. It was a misposition there from Clem. Okay. Additional factories are coming right now. Wouldn't be surprised to see even a 4th base coming up here for Hero in a moment. Still, the Stalker numbers are starting to outgrow this. And again, what Clem is looking for is momentum, right? He wants to be able to push and then continue pushing. And Hero is pushing right now to prevent that exact thing from happening. These are very messy engagements, but plenty good for Hero in the end, mostly because of exactly what I'm trying to say with that momentum. There's just really no way for Clem to get the ball rolling. Like, he wants to snowball these type of engagements. Hero overwhelming this with just basic units is really big for him. Look at this. 4th Nexus is going up, whilst Terran is not even able to secure a 3rd. Dark Shrine on the back of this as well, by the way. I do love it. Double upgrades as well for Hero, which is so greedy. Still no Storm, by the way. Oh, man, he's not even done yet with the Stalkers. He is not yet even done with the Stalkers. Okay, some of the units are fully surrounded by the SCV, so he decides to recall them out again. What an absolute mess of a game. Hero is so good at those type of games, though. No one better really than Hero to do this sort of thing. 1 century misrallied. We're gonna continuously chrono boost whatever we can. And Hero is effectively, like, he's soft-containing his opponent, right? He's soft-containing his opponent on 2 bases while having 4 of his own. And what do you do as Terran in that situation? I don't think you do anything. I think you lose. You can't possibly compete with a Protoss. Oh, you see that? Sorry, can we just look at that again? Did he just blink that? That must have been luck. That was a blink surround. Look. Whoa. Warcraft 3 players salivating while watching this. Calm down, Warcraft 3 players. Take this moment to hit the like button, okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. You too, StarCraft players. Come on. Thank you very much. I mean, that Hellion was gonna die anyways. It doesn't even matter. But it was cute. We have Blink, by the way, for the Dark Templar now. Apparently, the Blink Stalkers have been working out quite nicely thus far for Hero. So he's just going to add some more in the mix. 3rd base is going to be attempted over here on the left side. Dark Templar, though, are being warped in. The scans have been used up a bunch of times already. SCVs get pulled away from their mineral lines again. Big investment, by the way, from Hero to go into the Dark Shrine. Wow, he doesn't even need it. GG. And now we arrive at the reason why I selected this particular series, these particular games, to watch. So, look, Clem clearly frustrated with the way that this matchup, Protoss versus Terran, has been going for him. So he's come up with the solution. Game number 2 in this grand finals. Clem switches to Protoss. Now, this is the ultimate statement. This right here is the result of him being thoroughly tilted about the whole situation. Now, it's important to note that Clem is not just being whiny here, okay? Maybe there's a little bit of that, but Clem is one of the very highest ranked Protoss players on the European ladder. Like, significantly higher than many Protoss players that I constantly cast on my channel. At the very least, if you look at his MMR. In case you haven't looked... Oh. If he is not paying attention to this... Oh, Hero is not paying attention. Hero didn't see. Hero didn't see that Clem switched to Protoss. He's playing a single gate opener. This is not the way that you normally start off this matchup. I mean, it's still doable, but technically very difficult to pull off. The positioning her of these structures does not make sense against another Protoss player. Absolute meme. He's gonna find out right now, though. Anyways, if you haven't looked at Grandmaster League for a little while, Clem now also notices it. It's about 50-60% Protoss. So for Clem, you want a remake? Oh, Clem is so nice. All right. If you haven't looked at the ladder in a little while, it's so much Protoss that in order for Clem to reach, I think it's like 6.8k MMR or so with his Protoss, he has to actually beat like 50, 60, maybe even 70% Protoss players to get there. So Clem is constantly playing on the ladder against the likes of Max Specs, against the likes of, for example, Showtime. He's playing against the cream of the crop and he's consistently beating him. So this is not Clem just, you know, being whiny. He just wants to see how it goes against one of the world's absolute greats. And Heroes PvP is a bit of a monster, by the way. It is something that you do have to take into consideration. He's decided to go into a very fast Stargate. By the way, have you noticed my extremely elaborate ploy to get you to watch a Protoss versus Protoss? This is what it takes, okay? I like this matchup a lot, but whenever I upload a PvP onto YouTube, nobody watches it. It took me about an hour to get here, but I've gotten there, okay? Ah, gotcha. I'm like your parents when you were a toddler. Like mashing vegetables and trying to hide them inside of whatever you did like. Eat your broccoli, watch your PvP, it's good for you. Alright, Void Ray coming up right now. Yeah, Hero needs to freestyle a little bit, but you know what? He can certainly do it. I mean, if anybody can do it, it would certainly be Mr. Hero. Clem following this up right now with a Twilight Council. I can almost hear the sound of people removing, you know, the liked video. They're like, nope. I am not here to get tricked. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, maybe? I don't know. All right, well, this is a weird spot right now for Hero, but his idea is to just make an insane amount of Void Rays, right? So you get to a point with Void Rays where you can one-shot a lot of stuff. Maybe, though, it's a bit of a misread, because Clem is really not going for a super committed all-in at all. Hero is looking at this game right now, so I can imagine Hero has not played against Clem's Protoss before, so it's difficult to really judge. Look at the amount of shield batteries. Yeah, Clem is going to see it right now. He's like, wait a second. I am not even all-inning you. Why are you so afraid? I can imagine, though, if you are Hero right now, like, how do you mentally rate Clem's Protoss versus Protoss? Like, how do you make up your mind? Do you think you can waste 1,000 minerals worth on shield batteries and still obtain the victory? Is that the level we're talking about? He would never be able to get away with that against somebody like, for example, Classic or Max Specs, but I don't think this is enough, man. I mean, we do get the shield, or sorry, we do get the prismatic alignment here, but the force fields are plenty good. Yeah, this is never going to happen, Hero. We do have another Void Ray showing up. Maybe these Adepts can even up the worker count a little bit. That would be nice. But a lot of Protoss units here are gonna find their death. Blink is going to finish up in just a moment, by the way, here as well for Clem. So that will be a big power spike. Slow warping right there, not helping out all too much. Oracle goes around the side, though. There is a shield battery inside of the main base, so this will be fine for Clem. You do not have quite enough firepower. No shield battery in the natural. So maybe this can actually put in a bit more work. It's a lot of lost mining time, but in the meantime, in the middle of the map, Hero is still bleeding out units because the Blinky boys have shown up. Oracle goes down as well. Hero going a little bit too aggressive across the board. He did make all of that static defense, I suppose, so that's nice. But, I mean, if you can blink into the main base, you can bypass all these 5 shield batteries on the low ground. Clem decides to just go after the pylons. I would not mind seeing one of the shield batteries used to maybe try and repair it. Nice little force field there, blocking that unit from getting out of the base. And we're going to start soaking some of the energy. Okay. Plenty of DPS here out of those blue Stalkers to prevent the Stalker from getting repaired all the way back up. Third Nexus in the meantime on the back of this. And even though Clem is having an extremely hard time beating Hero with his main race, he is looking like he's doing it with Protoss, which is extremely cursed. Ay, 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 ay. The Clem situation really is crazy. I wonder how much of this all is like just straight up overplaying, right? There's a reason why a lot of the top dogs don't play in literally every single tournament. Clem does, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar. Maybe he's just experiencing a little bit of burnout. That could also certainly be the case. But we are entering a very strange story arc right now. Like, this season of StarCraft 2 is wild. Now, of course, we do have to take that game with a grain of salt. In case of Clem, it's a lot of salt. But we do have to, of course, consider that Hero opened up with the wrong early game. Hero thought he was playing against a Terran, so his early game was a little bit whack. Still, though, good performance right there from Clem, getting the job done and now evening up the score. This time around, we've got Hero opening up with the norm. So in Protoss versus Protoss, you usually build up at least 2 gateways at the start. I mean, you can go single gate, although these days it's very uncommon. MaxPax was one of the very few players that really played that back in the day, and even he usually doesn't go for it anymore, at least last time I checked. Stargate follow-up right here again for Hero, so Clem opting to go for the faster expansion. Hero now playing a straight-up game. Is gonna go into the good old, well, the late base and then the faster Stargate. So he'll be opting for aggression, which really does suit his style quite nicely. But I can imagine here as well as Hero, right? You're just not entirely sure how competent somebody like Clem is going to be in this particular matchup. I'm sure he's respecting him, but there are some question marks. Here's the hallucinated Phoenix Scout again. I think there's a few easy changes, by the way, that you could make to the game. Ooh, this is a mistake actually from Clem. He was not supposed to let those sneak in, although the force fields are real good. Huh. I think there's a few things you can do to fix the greatest problems that people are experiencing. And I really do think the hallucination Phoenix Scouting is just too strong. Maybe just reduce the vision range of hallucination. Like, say they cut the amount of vision that a hallucinated Phoenix can see, or any hallucination for that matter. Cut it in half. Kind of like they did once upon a time with the Adept Shades. It's the same idea. Just reduce the vision that you can get as a Protoss player. So notice how the Adept Shades don't have nearly as much vision. Until the Adepts suddenly, well, do complete here. They materialize and then the vision completes. I think you can do the same thing with hallucinated Phoenixes, and that already would sort out a lot of problems, and that's the most minimal change. I don't think anybody's gonna complain about that. Anyways. Couple Adepts sneak around the side again, and this is getting a little bit messy here for Clem. You're not really supposed to be having these units sneak into your main. Oracle is going to swoop around the site. One thing, of course, that you always have to consider, right, with balance changes is the other matchup as well. So sometimes I see people giving great suggestions for Protoss versus Terran. Like, for example, you could, I don't know, buff the power of mules. That would sort out Terran's mid-game and early game. That would also absolutely break Terran versus Zerg, however, so... That's a really bad idea across the board, right? So, I think you have to come up with something that would work in all of the matchups, and I think an hallucinated unit vision range would be the easiest thing you can do. Don't get me wrong, I am here as well for big changes. But with the way that Blizzard is currently managing StarCraft 2, I find that very unlikely. Well, anyways, Hero has decided to go for a proxy gateway on the other side of the map right now. Okay. He does catch a whole lot of those Stalkers as well for Clem inside of that little bubble. Clem actually decides to just send out a bunch of hallucinated probes. Hallucinated probes, in case you're unfamiliar, give you 4 for the price of 1. So you just spend the energy once, you get 4 probes all at the same time. Blink is just seconds away, though, from being finished right now, and we do have some hallucinated stalkers here at the front as well for Hero, using that unit to his advantage. Blink, though, already done right here for Clem, and now we get the dance. Who can dance better? Well, at this point, Clem just has the numbers advantage. Hero is warping in to even those odds up a little bit. Worker count is going to be slightly in favor for the player in red, who's now also taking another base on the back of this. The Blink Wars. They're extremely dangerous. Third Nexus comes up as well for Clem. And you can see that Clem, like, across the board, maybe not quite as tidy as Hero, but he's not playing poorly. You can tell that he is very capable of playing, well, Protoss, even against another Protoss player. And I would imagine that Hero has probably the edge with, give or take, an extra few tens of thousands of games. I can imagine Hero has played at least an additional 10,000 PvPs compared to Clem. I'm not exaggerating, it's probably more than that. This recall is going to hurt, though, because he's going to take a load of damage. Hero can just escape through the third base if he wants to, although there are some units waiting on the low ground. Yeah, Clem is maybe going to be able to corner some of those troops, though, and maybe a recall would have been better as well on Hero's side, who's going to bleed out quite a few of those units. There is, okay, a stasis ward set up. It is going to, oh, miss rally. It is going to delay Clem for just a moment. In the meantime, we have the Oracle swooping back in from the earlier stages of the game, getting a few additional worker kills. And slowly but surely, Hero is setting up an eco lead. They're playing the same units. They have the same odds. But at this point, the Hero does simply have the bigger eco, and he's going to get that defender's advantage too. This will be the moment where Clem, well, either needs to break it or probably slowly fizzle out. Of course, there are comeback mechanics in this matchup. Nice targeting here, though, by Hero. Hero knows that a trade alone is going to be more than he really needs. As time goes on, he will simply just produce more units. Of course, there are troops like, for example, the Disruptor. I mean, not commonly seen anymore in this matchup, but Disruptors can change the way that the battle works. Oh, well, this could be good as well. Not enough Stalkers to one-shot the low HP Nexus, so Hero does get the majority of his minerals back. I think it's actually, like, across the board, to get back to, like, the Hallucinated Phoenix scouting. I think the game would benefit from reducing early game scouting across the board. Not just for Protoss, but also for Zerg, also for Terran. I miss some of the early game cheeses that we used to see back in the day. The pro players have kind of gotten too good at the game, man. I kind of miss the games that are ended with a Dark Templar all-in. I don't think that should be the norm, but right now they are just completely unheard of, and I think it'd be fun to bring some of that back. Just reduce the overall vision. Maybe reduce the Overlord scouting speed, reduce the hallucinations, maybe reduce the observer speed, reduce, like, I don't know, for example, early game Terran unit speed. I mean, there's a lot of things you can mess around with. I think the game would benefit from it. Okay, well, Clem is struggling in this game right now, but he's still hanging in here. He's gone for his own charge. That one's already done for Hero. Hero building up, though, a fourth Nexus as well, slightly ahead of the opponent. And effectively what we're seeing here is a slight deficit for Clem in every part of the game. Slightly behind in upgrades, slightly behind in armor, slightly behind in army, rather, slightly behind in economy. He is slightly behind in every part, every pillar of StarCraft. Turning this one around would be extremely nice for him, but it would also be requiring a pretty significant error on Hero's side. Clem finally gonna take care of that gateway. Oracle swoops back around. We're gonna settle for a little stasis instead. Now this could get awkward, yeah. Huh. Rarely ever see that, do we? The warp-in gets stasis. Okay, fair enough. Stalkers are going in for the counterattack. Now, of course, when you can't fight your opponent's main army, a counterattack is always a good choice. A base race can maybe create enough chaos to maybe, well, force your opponent into a mistake. Hero, though, he is somebody that really thrives in chaos. It looks like the natural expansion also did get stasis for just a little bit. Yeah, and I think Hero is navigating this really well. It's still technically a winnable game here for Clem, but the problem is that the economy here for Hero is just through the roof. So many probes are dying. Clem is targeting down the old main nexus, but there's a lot more bases available. He's trying to recall, but not all of the units fit inside of the circle. He doesn't know where the majority of the red Protoss players' army is located, though, so recalling some of the units actually not a terrible idea. I mean, Clem does now have the supply advantage as far as the army goes. It needs to be said. Obviously, Hero has also got the less mobile army. He just doesn't have the same speed. A bunch of the probes here, for some reason, got caught in a stasis. Those were Clem's probes. He decided to bring those all the way across the map. The big difference, though, is that Hero still has a base mining over here. And I don't even know if Clem is aware of that one. He is going to try and put all of his eggs in one basket. And you know what? It's a big basket. He does still have 66 right now versus 67 supply worth of army. Gets the opponent's observer. Not bad. We're going to see the dance of a lifetime here from Clem. Aggressive blink forward here from Hero just to try and negate some of that advantage. The arc, though, here for Clem is mighty. The arc is phenomenal. The concave here might just give him enough value. Reinforcing units, though, for Hero are showing up. And despite Clem's best efforts, it's not going to happen. Hero gets a win in game number 3. Next up, we find ourselves on Maganatha. Match point here for Hero, who started off with a very normal, well, high ground. A couple of gateways. We've got ourselves a Cyber Core, but he's decided to build his second pylon outside of the main. Maybe this is just to throw a bit of a curveball. I think that's what it is, actually. One thing you always have to be paying attention to as a Protoss player in this matchup is the, well, pylons of your opponent, right? So if you are Clem right now, you have looked around, you know that there is a second pylon out on the map somewhere, but you haven't seen it. How do you know where it is? It could be, for all you know, right over here, right? It could be like a proxy immortal all-in or something silly like that. It could be right over here on the right side of the map with a Stargate attached to it and a very quick Oracle coming up. Again, that's where the hallucinations will be very nice. Sentries actually deal significant damage now to units with shields. That's a buff they got once upon a time. Now, I don't think this is going to be on a scout path to really see much. Clem has decided that the way he wants to figure this out is we have a couple of hallucinations meeting each other in the middle of the map. He's going to figure this out by seeing roughly what is happening on the side of the Protoss. So, I think we see Hero trying to hide his sentries. But there's 3 of them already. And I think that really is giving Clem at least a peace of mind to just chill. When you see 3 sentries at this stage in the game, do you really expect an all-in to come up anytime soon? It is certainly a little bit odd. We'll have to see exactly what Hero decides to go for with this. But I think in Hero's mind, right, you just throw a bunch of curveballs. And you hope for the best. There's a very good chance that this is not something Clem has seen a whole lot of. So, yeah, what are the odds that Clem has got the perfect response figured out? Match point, by the way, for the tournament right here for Hero. If he ends up winning this game, he will be the winner of the weekly. Okay. It's time to begin the dance. We do not have Blink. That'll be coming up in a moment, I believe. But we do have a Prism. And when you think about it, the Prism kind of gives everything Blink. It's just Blink with like a life bar, you know? It's a Blink opener with a limited amount of HP. Couple Adepts, sneaking them into the main base would be really lovely. Already though, Hero is waiting. We will see some of the units in the main base, yeah, get joined in too, but there is a shield battery. Decent force fields right there. Shield battery, though, is within range. Hero awkwardly trying to get the units around. In the meantime, the Adepts have decided to commit to the mineral line on the low ground. Fair enough. Ooh, he really wants to get the Prism. Does not quite get the kill on that one. The force fields were good at getting rid of the Adepts, but they also denied mining there for a little while. That pylon, by the way, does get spotted. Ah. As we now transition into Glaive Adepts. So I thought this was going to be Blink. But no. We go into the Adepts with the Glaives research. And then also into the Immortal. Now this is a very powerful push. So this is actually one of the very few matchups in StarCraft 2 where the Adept can be used as a core unit. As both players are going for it. Okay. Hallucinated Warp Prism. I kind of love it, you know? I feel like Hallucinated Warp Prisms are very underutilized. Glaives versus Glaives is odd. Hallucinations over here at the front as well, though. There's already multiple Immortals available, so I've got a feeling this should be a pretty straightforward defense. But, of course, the sentries can force field each other out. Hallucinated Prism goes back home. A few real Adepts do, however, sneak into the main. Absolute mess, but the Prism is home in time to save at least one of the Immortals. Probes pulled away from the mineral line to kill a bunch of Hallucinations. You gotta strike while the iron is hot, right? That's what Clem is gonna try and do. He needs to get across the map ASAP and get that, well, value out of the Resonating Glaives research. So it's just a straight up attack speed improvement for Adepts. And obviously, if you can now attack your opponent, even with a 1 HP Prism, if you can attack your opponent with some more of those units, it does really benefit you greatly. In the meantime, the Glaives research is ticking along as well for Hero. A couple Adepts have snuck around the site, though. And this may force this attack from Clem into almost like an all-in, because I don't think Clem is going to want to, well, warp in a lot of defenses. Yeah, he warps in a few Adepts of his own. He does have an Immortal as well, but he really wants to be fighting over here at the front. Does he have enough to overwhelm this? Prism available right now as well for Hero. He's going to try and snatch up as many of those low HP units as possible. Low HP Immortals, though, are chasing one another down with the Prisms just repositioning them constantly. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, the units were cleaned up there by Clem, so no more Adepts harassing him. Looks like there's an Observer heading all the way back home, too. Big warping over here. That Prism doesn't have a lot of HP remaining, but I think Clem's army is ultimately big enough. An extremely difficult game to navigate properly, but I think Clem has done it in about the best way possible. Yeah. He's overwhelming the natural expansion here of Hero. And at this point, I mean, they're effectively playing the same strategy, but Clem is coming up on twice the economy. So as long as they keep making the same units, Defender's advantage is obviously not that big when you can just warp in units right over here. As long as they keep making the same units, this should be fine. At a Prism, it did take a bit of a beating once again, but Clem, he manages to even up the score. So wait, let me get this straight. Clem played a whole lot of games against Hero with his Terran. And he could only win when the cheese of Hero failed. Now, in the previous game, we watched him play a straight-up match of Protoss versus Protoss. And he did manage to get the job done. Admittedly, that was a bit of a strange start, I suppose, for our player from South Korea, who, by the way, now sees this little cheeky proxy pylon out on the map. Okay, nice scout here by Hero. Clem had something dirty in mind for this particular one, but it's a very curious spot, okay? Clem winning a finals like this would actually be incredible. It would be so fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hero is an absolute beast. Certainly the favorite going into a show match like this, but I mean, it's exciting. Zealot gets brought out though, and the Zealot here, normally not something you make early on. It is going to make life a little bit easier. Any proxy here that Clem wanted to go for is going to get the Knight. Hero in the meantime also keeping an eye out on the high ground here, sees what's coming out of those additional gateways, and Clem's Stalkers indeed are spotted. Probe is going to go back around the site. He wants to get a real vision of what's going on. He doesn't yet know about the Stargate, but I think he's about to find out. Great work here so far by Hero. He wants to go up to the high ground. I don't think he saw the Stargate. That's a little bit unlucky. He does, however, see that additional Stalkers were made, and that's why the pylon generally gets planted down. It's to delay the Nexus and to see what's coming out of the gates. The Stalker Dance, though, is still nice, right? Zealot is hacking away at whatever it can hit. It's always going to be one of the last units going down in a fight like it. Messy. But ultimately, this will be a small advantage here for Clem. I mean, an advantage at least as far as this particular fight goes. My main concern is the economy. So Clem clearly had some sort of cheese in mind. And since that didn't end up working out, he lost a lot of time. He needs this Oracle to deal damage, but, yep, there's already, I mean, we do need to respond to it. There's already a shield battery inside of the main. Nothing inside of the natural expansion until right now. But the Oracle has already used up most of its energy. And as the dust has now settled after this early game, Hero is finding himself with a very significant worker lead. Twilight Council here for Clem. A robo facility in the meantime on the other side of the map, as the Oracles, by the way, have decided to join forces. Okay. And this is actually really quite good here for Clem. Now getting a significant amount of damage in. Evening up the worker count quite a bit. What about this fight at the front? Well, Clem is waiting up on the high ground. Snipes one of the Stalkers of the opponent for free. Not bad at all. He's gonna stumble upon a random pylon. Certainly something that he should consider shutting down. Okay. Prism right now for Hero, who's still, by the way, 6 workers ahead. So even after the previous exchange going terribly wrong for him, he's still finding himself in a position, and that's really all just because of that early game delay on the expansion for Clem. Oracles are trying to see if maybe they can get some more damage done. Energy recharge, of course, very nice on them too. Not usually the main complaint that people say, but well, there's an additional 6 probes in the mix. Okay. The Prism is here. There is not yet... Okay, one of the Oracles does go down. There is not yet Blink for either of them. As a matter of fact, Hero doesn't even have a Twilight Council yet. Clem does have that one coming up of his own. Hero trying to chase this down, though. He needs to make sure that the Prism does not die. Losing the Prism here would be an absolute disaster. Likewise, though, Clem really wants to buy as much time as possible for this upgrade to finish. Blink is going to make his life so much easier. Hero at this point doesn't know about it. Ah, misread the Oracle. Clem becoming very Protoss now, as we see 2 Oracles going down like that. Okay. Honestly, a difficult game, though, to really judge right now. Clem has done a good job catching up economically. No third base yet for either of them. As a matter of fact, Hero is looking to just continuously warp in troops. There's the third Nexus now going down for Clem, who's really doing a great job climbing his way back into the match. But what about the straight-up Stalker numbers? There are enough of them, technically speaking, but Clem doesn't have them all in the right place. He does cancel the Nexus at the last possible moment, but a bunch of his units are stuck in the corner over here. Clem trying to bring all of his reinforcements over here, though. He does Blink on top of the Prism, and the Prism does end up going down, but there is no Blink for Hero. So Hero's gonna have to just sort of micro and stutter step his way out of this. Probes, by the way, from the natural expansion here of Clem join in. They're really just here to soak up damage. And even though Clem is the one forcing his opponent back home, this is obviously greatly beneficial for Hero. Just getting such a big mining advantage here. Immortal is going to get surrounded, will not live up to its name, but it's still responsible for a bunch of those Stalker kills. 14 probes have gone down, and ultimately the armies have mostly traded out, so that is a benefit, of course, for Hero. Clem is going to send whatever probes remain all the way back home. It's one of the difficult things about playing PvP. Sometimes you end up playing third base chicken, where whoever expands first dies. Hero not taking the bait there, and he could have expanded. Honestly, if anyone was going to expand, I think it should have been Hero. But Hero just decided to go for the mass unit production instead. Decides to go into charge first as well. So he doesn't even have any zealots. But we are going to go charge together with +1. Now, this is going to turn into an all-in very rapidly. The problem you run into here as Hero is that your main and your natural are going to run out very soon. He's committing. Yeah. So we're gonna go Archon, Immortal, Zealot. That's the plan. He can make a Nexus here, but I don't think it's really the plan. Maybe. I think it's mostly a fake out, to be honest. Prism does take a bit of a beating, but a Stalker pays the price. What about that Stasis Ward? Okay, pretty good. Another big blink forward. And you know what? Clem does get the kill. He does also snipe one of the Immortals there very rapidly. A bunch of Zealots are joining in, and another Oracle ends up going down. More Zealots are showing up. This is very obvious to Clem right now that it will be charged on the back of this. Okay, he wants to target fire down as many of those Stalkers as possible. Third Nexus, by the way, does get planted. But this is the amount of production here where Hero is looking to deal real damage on the other side of the map. Fight gateways and a Robo facility. And obviously also a Templar Archives is quite significant. Charge right now, though, is available. It's going to make life much easier. Third Nexus here coming up as well for Clem. Clem once more is going to find himself getting caught on the right side of the map. This time around, though, no probes for him to really get help from. Nothing to really soak up the damage. New Immortal is walking across the map. Absolute chaos. A very disjointed game so far for both players, but obviously this is the environment where Hero thrives. Yeah, he's gonna get a council on the Nexus a second time around. And ultimately, it is Hero who wins the Monday Night Weekly, but man, did he have to fight for that one. I'm curious, though. Is Protoss too strong? Is Protoss too powerful? I mean, if we can keep it civil, let me know down below in the comment section of the video.